Tass in Baltimore and going to Canton this week has given me an opportunity to sort of round up all of the former Ravens in my life. So, I mean, there are dozens and dozens of former Ravens I have on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter. People are in my phone, people that I know, people that aren't on Twitter. This guy is my Facebook friend, and he was one of the really good dudes to ever put on a sweater here and play in the purple. He made a long journey around the National Football League at various points, including a stop back in Baltimore in 2008. He began with the Ravens in 1999. He's a World League of American Football over in Europe and a veteran of the Rhine Fire, as well as 4 seasons with the Ravens and several with the 49ers after he left here. Buccaneers, Jets, Dolphins, Titans. He's been all over the world, but he's back in Carolina, just like James Taylor sang. He's down in Charlotte. I ran into him a few years ago as part of the Ed Block contingent. We welcome Marcus Douglas back on. Many nights at the barn amongst crab cakes and adult beverages and lots of Ravens victories. How's it going, man? How's life as a former National Football League player? You've been out of the league 7 or 8 years now, Marcus, right?
This is going on my 7th season, and life is great. My family keeps me busy with 3 young kids and a wife. We love life, enjoy watching the Ravens on Sunday, enjoy your Facebook fan page. And I'm just elated this week to see one of my former teammates, and Ray Lewis, go into the pinnacle of our sport in the NFL Hall of Fame.
It's a fascinating thing, right? Because you came not far off the boat from Cleveland. You came in '99. Billick was just getting here. The program was just kind of getting started a little bit. For you, tell me where you found Ray Lewis, because you went to school down in D.C., and I'm sure during your D.C. era, I mean, first off, when you went to college, we didn't have a team here. By the time you got out, the Redskins weren't sort of the only team in town. And you come into this Ravens situation undrafted. You chose to be here. Your thoughts about Ray Lewis the first time you laid eyes on him? Because he wasn't in the Hall of Fame yet when you met Ray Lewis. He was in the, hey, this is a nice young player, right?
He was. I met Ray before he jumped on the national stage, in a sense that he was he wasn't a perennial Pro Bowler. He was just coming off a great season. But not only Ray Lewis, they had Jonathan Alton on the team, Shannon Sharp, but Ray on the side of defense, he was our captain. He matured to a person that you would go to not only about football, but about life. And to see where he's at today, it just blows my mind. He is everything you think he is, on the field and off the field, still reaching out to guys who are not a part of the game. But when we are together, he is, still the same jovial guy that he was when we played.
Man, you got an interesting tale to tell because, unlike some guys like Ray who only played in one place at one time, and you came in and out of this program, which I think makes you an even more interesting guest for this, because Ray came in '96, and look, I'm going to talk to Ernest Biner this week, where Ernest was the veteran guy, right? Like, when Ray came into this, the Pepper Johnsons, the Andre Risons, the guys that had come over from Cleveland, he was just a kid, and a really young kid, too. I mean, he came into the league a very young man. He was 20 years old when he was drafted, and he's sort of a contemporary for you, and you came in and saw the beginning part of this, and then the championship in '01. You came back after that, and you made a name for yourself and got a contract. But then you came back like in '08, where you see these young guys coming in, where he's got the gray in his beard, and I think even around then you're wondering, like, how much longer does he have? Because by the time you got back here, Ogden was gone, right? I mean, and Ray still hung out and won another championship long after you hung it up. I mean, you were gone 3-4 years in the league, and then you're watching Ray on television when the lights went out in New Orleans. I mean, you've had a hell of a journey in and out of the program with Ray, right?
I did. I remember sitting in a meeting room as a young guy back there with Tony Saragusa and Rob Burnett, not really knowing my place. But there was one constant voice in that meeting room, and that was Ray Lewis. So not only as a rookie was that voice there, but it was there when I came back in '08 when Harbaugh had his first year. Ray was still chirping. Had he lost some skills? Some people would say yes, but as you get older, you also get smarter. And so it's that old adage, don't work, let's not work harder, let's work smarter. And he was at that point in his career where playing football mentoring young guys. That's what he was all about. And I was just so fortunate to be in a meeting room with a Ray Lewis, with an Ed Reed, with Rob Burnett and Tony Siragusa early on in my career. So when I went back to Baltimore, that kind of laid the groundwork for my whole career, because I expected out of my teammates to give me that same kind of dedication, that same kind of will on Sunday to win. And I chased that throughout my career. And when you don't have it, you know what it looks like, you really appreciate those guys who laid that foundation for you.
Well, man, you're an interesting guy because you were an undrafted guy, passed over, you worked harder than everybody else, you hung on the end of this roster, the middle of that roster to get to the front of a roster by the time Mike Nolan went off to San Francisco. For your career, it never came easy for you, and I don't know that it ever came easy for Ray. I mean, I think we go back, and he'll talk about this, I'm sure, at the induction about being passed over by every team. And, when I talked to Phil Savage last week about him, so much was about his size and about the measurables, and no one wanted to draft him because he was too short. And I know you had short problems and body size problems, and 5 gap, 3 gap. Who's going to be technique guys, and where you're going to play, and what system you're going to be in, 3-4, 4-3. Ray struggled a little bit with that during the period you were here as well. That was the period where Mike Nolan came in, and Singletary after that, where we weren't doing things the same way Marvin was doing them. And Ray had some adjustments to make during your time here. And I think the other adjustment was the team wasn't very good when you first got back here after the Super Bowl. That 2 and 3 and 4 teams, those were rebuilding teams after the Super Bowl, and you were a part of that and took a great opportunity to become a starter around here. And I think Ray made everyone better. You're not the only guy that left here, went somewhere else and got a lot of money as a starter who at one point played next to Ray Lewis. There's a long list of guys that got paid in and around Ray, man, right? I mean, that's a little story about Saturday night.
Long list of guys. When you talk about up front, after that transition, after the Super Bowl, you're talking about me, Kelly Gregg, Anthony Weaver, Adelius Thomas, who made a lot of money.
Eddie Hartwell?
Ed Hartwell. We all benefited from being in that meeting room and learning the culture of playing in the NFL and what it meant to be a Raven. And it's so exciting today to see still Ray Lewis, Ed Reed's fingerprints on the Baltimore franchise. I mean, these guys laid the foundation for who we would be on the defensive side. But at the same time, we didn't care where you were drafted. We didn't care how big you were. They expected greatness on that field each and every Sunday. And if it was up to us to go out there and uphold the legacy that was set before us.
Marcus Douglas is our guest. He was my guest many times at the barn during his era from 2001 to 2004. He came in and out of the Ravens 3 different occasions, including with John Harbaugh in 2008. He's living the good life down there in Charlotte. I hope to see you down there. We get down there Halloween weekend, end of October. All of our WNST road trips are on sale up on the website. You can find, we still have a handful of seats left for Ray Lewis this weekend. I'm trying to make room for everybody. Throw me an email if you want to get involved, nasty@WNST.net. All of our WNST coverage also brought to you by our friends at Costa's Inn. Good enough for the Today Show and good enough for my mom. And I shared a few videos of my mom's final beer at the Costa's Inn last year out on the web over the weekend. The pit beef, the pit ham, the bands, and, of course, the crabs and the crab cakes over on the east side. Make sure you say hello to Nick and to Pete over at Costa's Inn. Also brought to you by King Discount Liquors. Give the King a ring. I did that on Saturday. Lottery beer, booze, and the best prices in Baltimore. I'm allowed to wear my Free the Bird shirt inside King Discount Liquors. Stop by, give Johnny Bev a ring over in Rosedale if you need some wine or some booze and supplies. My wife needed a 6-pack, so she got some red ale of some kind over at King Discount Liquors. Marcus Douglas is our guest. He and I had a couple of crab cakes out at the barn many, many times back in the day when I was out there every week. Many times. Yeah, man, you were one of my go-to dudes. For you with Ray Lewis, and you mentioned 3 small children at this point. I remember when you were young and sexy. Now we're old and sexy, and you got these kids. And I'm sure the kids are, Daddy, you play in the National Football League, and every Sunday and every Monday night and every Thursday night, the game's on, and most football players I know, their kids love football, or at least love the stories. What's the story you tell your kids about Ray and sort of that legacy of this Saturday night? How old are your kids now, Marcus?
My oldest is 13, youngest
Well,
is 8.
all right, so they know what's going on now, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, they know you played with Ray Lewis. They know, a lot about Dad. Well, Saturday night when the Hall of Fame thing happens, where are you going to be, and what are the things you tell your kids about Ray Lewis?
Well, Saturday night, just like every night, I will be home with the family, and we will tune in. I will record it because I know that speech is going to be awesome. Ray is someone who always speaks from the heart, and some of the things that he taught me as a younger player, I'm still teaching my two oldest right now. Things about working hard, things about being prepared, not only physically but mentally. So when you do have a game, the game is easy for you. And I think that's important. I think that's a lifelong lesson that I learned about being a professional athlete. It doesn't start on Sundays. It starts on Monday. Once you get the game film, getting that tape early, and dedicating yourself for 17 weeks to be in a position to go and play for a Super Bowl. And to see him mature, to see him over the years just transform himself into the best player is incredible. This past weekend, the last 9 days, I had a chance to go to Greece. And in Greece, there's this place called Acropolis that sits on top of the mountain. It sits on top of this mountain that overlooks the city. There's no point in the city where you cannot see Acropolis. And Ray Lewis is football's Acropolis. He stands at the top. Everybody else is looking at him because he set the bar so high to where we still see guys in college and high school and definitely in the NFL wear that number 52. And they wear it because Ray Lewis set the bar high, and guys still strive to be Ray Lewis on Friday nights, on Saturday nights, and especially on Sunday.
52 is a hard number to get when you sign up for Pop Warner football back in the day. It's fascinating now, like, who's going to carry that, who's going to be the next greatest player. I know they talked about the kid out in Oakland and Khalil Mack and other players, and Urlacher going in this time. I mean, I never saw Urlacher in Ray Lewis's class, probably because that's how great Ray was, that it sort of diminished some other players. I mean, I think it's done that in the quarterback era. There's Peyton Manning, and then there's and Tom Brady, and there's sort of everybody else. But that's sort of the measurement for all of this. And in talking to all the writers, all the voters, and maybe I'm too close to it watching Ray here, going over, watching him with tape cutters back in 1996 and seeing him in that way and seeing where that journey's gone from that day after the Raiders game to, Canton on Saturday night. We're very close to it here, and it's special here. There's been 2 parades. There's a statue out in front and all that. But not every town, not every player gets to experience, even all the guys like you that had a taste of playing with Ray Lewis. That's going to be some Paul Bunyan story to tell your kids. Not everybody has that story, right?
Not everybody has that, and I definitely think there's some younger guys that are taking the correct steps, trying to be that next guy, that generational kind of player that really puts his stamp on the NFL. Down here in Charlotte, we have a couple linebackers in Thomas Davis and Luke Kinkley, who I think the world of. And I think that if they continue on their paths of being dominant players, they will, too, be able to, let's say, sit at the table with a Ray Lewis. But right now, I still think you're looking at guys just trying to find themselves. And I think it's important that we let these younger guys mature. We let these younger guys find out who they're going to be, develop, and let's see, where they end up when all the chips are taken out the bag.
I don't think I've talked about this all week. By the way, Marcus Douglas joining us here, former Raven. Google him up. He's down in Charlotte, probably rooting for the Panthers, but not on October 28th.
Nah.
For you've played, I'm just going to go through your career here. Ravens 99, Ryan Fire 2000, Saints after that, then the 4 years with the Ravens, the 3 years in San Francisco. Then you had cups of coffee in Tampa, back here with the Jets, with the Dolphins, with the Titans. Like, I'm just looking at those names, and I bet, for 5 minutes at least, when you walked into a locker room with 53 or 65, however many guys were there when you were there, you probably touched and strapped a chin strap up with, I don't know, 600-800 different guys in and out of these locker rooms that you went through. And to your point, you've been in a locker room with Rod Woodson, with Ed Reed, with, a lot of great players, Hall of Fame players. But then there's like Ray Lewis and everybody else that gets measured against him. Now, you make a point against Woodson. Maybe you'd make a point for Sharp or even Ed Reed. But all of those guys would probably still say, Ray was probably better than me even, right? I mean, and
that's right.
For all these other places you've been, it really is amazing that we sort of depict him as the lion in this whole thing and the leader of the pride and the leader of the pack. And you mentioned the Acropolis and all that. It is a fascinating case study that for anyone to say, find me a better football player than Ray Lewis, I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer, all that. And when they say GOAT, greatest of all time and all that, I don't know. They're going to mark the Nitschkes and the Buckuses and the Jack Lamberts and, whoever you're going to put on the defensive side of the ball. Nobody's going to ever be better than Ray Lewis because of those accomplishments, the longevity, the way he played the game, the leadership and all that. I think that's what makes it special. He's not just a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer that Hall of Famers are going to say, well, there's no arguing that guy, ever.
That's right. That's right. You know what? I know a couple guys that played in Chicago with Urlacher speak very highly of him. When I had that cup of coffee in Tampa, there was a linebacker who went into the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. Being in the locker room with him, being in the locker room with a young Patrick Willis, there is nobody I played with who brought it every Sunday, who brought it in the meeting room, the practice field, like a Ray Lewis. And so when you talk about the whole player, when you talk about what he meant to a franchise, what he meant to a city, how he changed his career. I mean, early on, he wasn't the same guy that he was in the locker room year 6, year 7. He was a nurturer. He wanted to make sure that he was giving you everything you needed to be the best player. And that's why we banded together in those younger years. I think it was 2003 when we had the youngest defense in NFL history, and we still were able to do some tremendous things. I think that year he won defensive MVP, and so there are other guys who could sit at the table with Ray, but who gets the big chair is Ray Lewis. Who is the one that will be talked about for years to come as the gold standard as far as linebackers, and that's Ray Lewis. Not taking away anything from those other guys. They're phenomenal players, but when you stepped on that field on Sunday, guys from the other team, coaches on the other team, GMs on the other team wanted to look at number 52 and come and shake his hand. And I was honored to be able to play with him. And I wish Ray the best this week. As far as all the accolades that he's going to get, because he definitely deserved it.
Well, he's not going to need any help with the speech. He's not calling you asking for speech help this week, right?
Oh no! Oh no!
How many times is he going to cry? Is he going to cry during a speech? What do you think? What's the over/under?
He's going to cry. He's going to cry. Others who played with him will cry. And it's something I can remember in college. I think I was in college when Mike Singletary made it to the Hall of Fame. And I remember saying, man, if I could ever get a chance to play with a guy like that. And Ray Lewis was my Mike Singletary, and knowing Mike Singletary personally, and Mike will even probably say this, Ray sits at the top of that class.
Well, it's interesting for you because you were here during the height of Ray's greatness. You were here 2000 to 2004, but the 2003 year, I had almost forgotten how great he was that year, right? Because we didn't win the Super Bowl and like all that, but, defensive player of the year, he was the best player in football in 2003. I mean, you got him at the height of the height, right?
That's right. That's right. And a lot of people don't realize, too, that Ray played in a multiple scheme defense. So not only was he dominant in his first couple of years in a 4-3, where he had big Tony Siragusa and Sam Adams, 360 pounds plus in front of him, he played with a couple cast-outs like myself and Tony Kelly Gregg in a 3-4, where now he has an uncovered offensive lineman in front of his face. and he had arguably one of his best years.
And he wasn't used to that. I mean, I
team.
remember him fighting with Singletary, fight with Mike Nolan, because he wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't. It was an adjustment he had to make, and it wasn't easy for him. And I bet he's going to talk about that, because that was one of the real transitions. I mean, in addition to Atlanta and the murder of his friend Marlon Barnes, and in addition to all of it, but for his career and for the technique of his job, you were there during a little bit of a choppy period where we started to lose again, and we weren't as good as we were, and the Woodsons and the Sharps and all those guys, they aged out of the league, and you were one of the young guys that, along with Kelly Gregg and Weave and all those guys, that had to become players in this system.
We did, and that year, more than anything, Mike Nolan, Rex Ryan, Mike Singletary, they really made sure that we understood football, slowed the game down for us, and we just played. We knew that we could not bring Goose and Sam Adams back, but we wanted to be the best players we could be for our teammates. And we knew if we were going out there on that field, we did not want to let a person like Ray Lewis down. We did not want to let the Baltimore name down. I mean, these guys strung games, seasons without letting a 100-yard rusher. And so we really took that to heart and knew that if you were stepping and crossing that white line, you had, you had to give it all you had, and you had others that had paved the way for you, and we did not want to let those guys down.
How's life in Charlotte, man? Tell everybody what you're doing to stay busy. I saw you running around out on Facebook, you and a bunch of former teammates having real good summers. And, I know you guys played hard for all those years, and now as you get a little older, people run around with their kids and their wives and traveling and living. You're still involved with football, right, Marcus?
I'm still involved with football. Life is great down here in Charlotte. A couple of years ago, I started helping out with the local high school, coaching the D-line. Love it to death. Actually, I'm on my way to practice when I get off the phone with you. Put a couple guys in college last year. Supporting my family as far as ran 2 girls and a son. And so please pray for me at nighttime that I don't lose it as my daughters go into their teenage years. But life is great. I have my own real estate brokerage down here. And so I just could not ask for anything more. I'm up working out every day and just trying to be the best person that I could be. And so I miss Baltimore, miss the fans, miss that old barn atmosphere. But then again, we have the Panthers down here, and so at least we have an okay defense to look at on Sundays when the Ravens are not playing.
Well, it's a short drive to Atlanta for the Super Bowl when Flacco leads them down there to Peachtree in early February. Hey, I hope to see you in October. It was really good catching up with you. I guess Facebook is a blessing and a curse, but in our case, it's a blessing. It's nice to keep up with everything you're doing with your wife and your family down there in Carolina, and let's not be strangers. It's great to have you visit, man. Under great circumstances. Good. I'll call you back when Ed Reed's going to the Hall of Fame.
All right.
There he goes. Marcus Douglas joining us here from Charlotte, North Carolina, where he's down there living a good life. We got so many Ravens alums this week. I mean, if not now, when? If I'm not visiting with Marcus Douglas and Anthony Weaver and Pat Johnson and Eric Rett and former Ravens all week long, find me out in the BuyAToyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper ships directly to your email inbox. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club in Laurel, where they're going to race this weekend down there. They got that beautiful sports book. It's air-conditioned in there. It's a wonderful experience to get down to Laurel to the racetrack. You can learn more about the entries on the front of WNST.net as well as in our morning newspaper. Also brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. There's one right around the corner, and they're always judgment-free at Planet Fitness. Last but never least, I'm a very available individual. Want to go to Canton, Ohio this weekend? Nasty at WNST.net. The road trips tab's open on the website as well. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And if there's any breaking news at all on Adam Jones or not Adam Jones or any more deals, you'll get it all first on the WNST Tech Service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5, driving you home. It is the SSV on WNST. Big shout out to two of our new sponsors at Charles Newsonoff and Sons. Stop by and see Sydney over in Parkville, as well as our friends at Sporticulture. I'm going to have some flowers on the set here. Sporticulture is a locally run nursery where they send NFL licensed flowers throughout the country. Ravens fans, get in line. They're 50% off. Use the code WNST with our friends Court over at Sporticulture. We'll be telling you about that all season long. I was over at Michael's Cafe getting a crab cake the other day, too. So I want to give a shout out to Josh and the folks in the Dellis family over at Michael's Cafe. We're hoping to plan some events there coming into September and October, as well as football season gets going here in Canton this week. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.